Stephen Conroy, good morning to you. So we're underway. The fun and games started in the Senate yesterday of pretty heated debate. Is that what we can expect until Australians head to the ballot box?
Well, I hope some of the more incendiary contributions like, Pauline Hanson and Thorpe can put a sock in it and just allow a civilised debate. There are plenty of good arguments for, and those who want to make the no argument case can make them, and that can be done in a very civil way. It's an important moment in Australian history. So the sort of, heated rhetoric that we saw from those two really doesn't belong in this debate. There's no need for it. Pauline Hanson's clearly suffering relevance deprivation syndrome. She's pretty much irrelevant in the building, and Lydia Thorpe does everything she can to attract attention. So how about you let the rest of the country have their say? How about you let the Australian public have its say now?
If it fails, is that on the Prime Minister?
Look, I think Albo would be disappointed. He said from the first moment we were declared elected that this is one of his priorities. Will it hurt him in an electoral sense? No, I believe the Australians that will support the Voice will recognise his absolute passion and commitment on this issue. It's been from that first moment, that first speech, when he accepted victory on the night, he said this would be one of his passionate positions. So I don't think it hurts in an overall political sense, but I'm not believing that it's going to lose yet. I think there's still plenty to play for. There's still plenty of opportunity. A couple of those no states are very narrow no's. The campaigns have only just really, now that it's passed the parliament, going to kick in. And while there's been some backbiting and some bad behaviour and language by some of the supporters of Voice, I hope they also understand that they've not helped their cause, not helped the chances of it being passed, and I hope they restrain themselves for the next few months.
Back on the Prime Minister, though, by leaving so much detail that's to come after the referendum, how is that fair on voters?
Well, this originated, you've got to remember, as a request from the Indigenous community. They got together at Uluru, the statement from the heart. They've been at the forefront of driving this, and they made a request to the Australian public. This is what we believe will help heal.
But the public still needs the detail.
Well, legislation isn't always, this idea that every single piece of detail is always presented before a piece of legislation. It's just false. I've voted for and against bills in Parliament which have often had all of the detail to be left for a regulation to be passed later. It's still got to be dealt with by Parliament. So this idea that every single detail needs to be on the table and it's an outrage. The Liberal Party have done this many times. The Labor Party have done this many times. This is not something that Australians should suddenly go, oh my God, this is new. It is absolutely not. This is a furphy being pushed by the no case.
Well, the cynics argue that the reason is political. The reason why all of the information isn't available, because as soon as he does that, then it opens up easy attack lines from the no camp. Is there a point to that?
There's going to be a body, either you're for or against the body, that will be created as part of this. Do you need to know whether it's going to be a PR ballot based on regions versus based on states versus local councils? This is the sort of nonsense argument. Just have the courage to argue for or against the body that will be created. You don't need to try and pretend that it's being hidden from you. There'll be a body and there'll be a debate in Parliament and there'll be lots of opportunities for people to have their say. But this is about the Constitution and the principle in the Constitution. This is not about the detail that's going into the Constitution. When you're lacking real substance in your no case, you've got to start trying to cause distraction, like, oh, there's not enough detail. We need to see it before we can vote for it. The concept, which is what's going into the Constitution, the words going into the Constitution are there on the table. When you're so desperate, when your opposition is so thin, you start trying to create things like this.
All right. Stephen, good to see you. We'll chat to you soon.
Good to talk.